Joining us live is Nationals Senator Matt Canavan. Matt, great to see you. Now, you introduced a bill to repeal net zero in 2025 this week. What's been the reaction so far?
Look, it was great to do that this week. Janie, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And unfortunately, I didn't get a Father's Day present of net zero being gone and dead and buried yet, but I'm working on it. As you've highlighted there, I introduced a bill this week to repeal net zero. This bill is the same as what Barnaby Joyce has introduced in the House of Reps, and it's been debated a little bit. And look, I'm doing this because I just don't think this policy is working for our country. It's clearly failing on its own merits or on the markers that the movers, the supporters of net zero, put in place themselves. I never supported net zero. I thought it was a fantastical, ridiculous idea from the get-go. But those who did back net zero, they did tell us that your power prices would be cheaper because of net zero emissions. The Prime Minister promised they'd come down by $275 a year. He put a number on it. Instead, they've gone in massively the opposite direction with no relief in sight. They said we'd have thousands of more jobs in critical minerals, in hydrogen. We'd be a hydrogen export superpower. Well, all of the major hydrogen projects have fallen over at the cost of billions of taxpayer dollars. And we've lost a critical mineral. In the case of nickel, the whole nickel refining and smelting industry is gone from this country when it was meant to be a great hope for our future. So none of this is working. And then on top of that, of course, the rest of the world, quite predictably, are not taking it seriously. We've seen massive expansion of coal mining in our region in Asia. Part of that in Indonesia has helped steal those nickel jobs. Their nickel smelters and refineries are being fuelled by a massive expansion in coal-fired power. And then you've had America pull out of the Paris Agreement completely. Even Europe is really derating this, not taking it as seriously given the pressures they've faced from an aggressive invasion of Ukraine. By an illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So look, I think we should wake up to the facts now. And whatever people's views on net zero a few years ago, the facts are in, it's not working. Let's find another direction for our nation.
All right, so I guess people are wanting to know, what direction are you taking? How serious are you about climate change, lowering emissions? And, you know, what is your belief?
Well, I'd like to go back to where we were about a decade ago, where the coalition government said that we would be technologically neutral, we'd support all types of power, we would seek to reduce emissions. At the time, we'd promised to reduce emissions by 26 to 28% by 2030. So reasonable reductions in emissions I've never been against. It's just that the net zero approach is completely out of reach. We're just not going to get there. There's not the technologies, there's not the plan to achieve this. Now, keep in mind what this means. It's really important to understand. It is just a bit of a slogan. Politicians try to hide behind it, but it fundamentally means that we just change everything we do. How we grow our food. There's heaps of fossil fuels in that. We've actually lost our urea industry in the last few years. That's the most important fertiliser to grow food. About half the world's food comes from nitrogen-based fertilisers like urea. Right. They're made from natural gas. There's no substitute for them. And so I just think we should have reasonable reductions in emissions, not ridiculous ones that are just going to make us poorer.
We hear from the Climate Council and they say, quote, scrapping our 2050 climate target is aligned with global heating of likely more than 3 degrees, which would have catastrophic impacts on Australians. And we also believe that that is going to affect the agricultural areas. We've just seen, over the last 5 decades, some below average rainfall, areas in the cooler months, not all, but certainly speaking to our experts here, that is what they tell us, and that's having, and is impacted by climate change, many scientists would believe. So how urgent and do you agree that it's going to have catastrophic impacts if we don't do something immediately?
Well, if by we you mean Australia, I don't agree with that, because we're only 1% of emissions. So I actually think the consequences of a policy are more important than its intent. I'm not trying to question the intent of many people who want to do good by the environment, but good intentions are not enough. Wishful thinking is not how our country should be run. We should be run, and we should decide our policies on what those policies are actually going to do.
Are we not?
Like how they're going to actually make people's lives better. And the problem is just hear me out, I'm answering your question. If we do what the Climate Council wants and get to net zero emissions in 25 years, That will do absolutely nothing on its own to change the temperature of the globe, the incidence of extreme weather. It'll only work, or only has any possibility and chance of working, if all other countries, including those like China and India and Russia, do the same. And clearly they're not doing the same. So I would say that to the extent we can get back to a more reasonable policy of reducing emissions, those reductions should be dependent. We should only reduce our emissions in any serious way in line with the rest of the world. Why would we handicap and hurt our own country, our own wealth, our own jobs, to have no benefit on the environment? That will make the situation worse, because not only will we still end up with the catastrophic weather that they're predicting, if their predictions are true, we'll be poorer and we'll be less able to manage those difficult weather conditions, because we've just imposed a cost on us which the rest of the world are not paying.
Well, you make some fair points, but we've also got to do something. I mean, yes, other countries might not be doing it, but you've got places like China and France, the UAE, India. They're building nuclear reactors, for example. They're also, of course, building coal-fired power stations as well. But we are seeing different types of energy in those countries as well. So I know that you're a fan of looking at nuclear, lifting bans and so forth. And we had the World Nuclear Association on yesterday. And in fact, they have a report which is the nuclear delivers the record-breaking year in electricity generation. So for people that are concerned about lowering emissions, why are they not jumping up and down and doing something about lifting bans to help lower those emissions?
You might be onto something there, Janie. I can't speak for other people, but some, and I'm not saying all are like this, but some that are pushing this climate change barrow certainly seem much more interested in deindustrialising Western countries and actually lowering global emissions. I mean, they say a lot more about the emissions in Australia and the US and Europe than they ever would and ever do about China and India. And if they were really concerned about the globe, they should be equally concerned about wherever the carbon emissions are from. So I think you might be onto something there. That it's not so much about reducing emissions. It's about wanting a totally different. It's about changing our politics, not changing the climate for some. Now, yes, I am a supporter of going to nuclear energy, and one of the benefits of that would be that they'd be lower in their carbon emission impact. But I also think it is also very important to put that in context. In the context of the net zero debate, only a third of our country's emissions are electricity. And so, sure, let's do nuclear. But at the outer envelope, nuclear can only really tackle about a third, much less than that really, because we're not going to be 100% powered by nuclear energy. And so it's only a fraction of the issue. And that comes back to my point. If you want to do net zero, it's not enough just to say two words. Tell me how you're going to grow the food I mentioned before. Tell me how you're going to transport large amounts of freight. And battery trucks are just so far off, it's comical. Tell me what you're going to do about meat production, where there's a substantial, about 15% of our carbon emissions are involved in agriculture and principally in the production of cattle. How is that going to all work? And so that's why I think it's absolutely crazy to try and attempt this in 25 years, in just a generation.
Sorry, we've got to
You
wrap it
will
up.
make yourself bankrupt. It will make the situation worse.
Just quickly, what are your thoughts on our exports and how we export gas and coal? It's not part of our percentage of emissions, but should that be included?
Well, I don't think so. I think in fact, it should perhaps go more the other way. It's difficult, but a more rational basis for carbon accounting would be to put the carbon emissions where they're consumed. To put the impact of carbon emissions on the country that consumes the final good, the final product. Because what we're increasingly doing, of course, is countries like in Europe especially, they may shut down their steel industries, their high-emitting cement industries. Of course, they end up just importing that then from other countries, actually lifting the world's carbon emissions because they're transporting the goods then from further away, still made by things like coal-fired power. Now, it's very difficult to shift to that type of consumption-based carbon accounting measure, but you're suggesting that we go to a measure that's even further down the other way, where a country like China and India or other countries that might be, even Europe, that might be consuming the goods produced from Australia's coal-fired power, we actually have to be the ones that suffer for the consumption that might exist in Europe or other countries. That to me is a little bit absurd. But this does, look, there is a real problem here, a real practical problem about how you measure, how you make different countries accountable for different types of carbon emissions. It's again a reason to not try and do this too quickly, you'll just end up making a bad situation much, much worse.
Well, I guess it's what we're seeing now, isn't it, with the fast tracking of renewables in New South Wales and Victoria. We've got those laws there and the ramifications of our agricultural land. Many people, we've had a farmer on today who has actually had the very first renewable wind farms in 1998, and they've gone to net zero in the Upper Lachlan Shire. So he's fine about it. He's just saying enough in our area because they've got the world's best wool and potatoes and you name it, and that's going to affect their agricultural land. So, we've got to work together, and hopefully we will see more of that. And I know you didn't get your Happy Father's Day gift that you wanted, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the day and appreciate you joining us on Father's Day, Senator Matt Canavan, and Happy Father's Day to all the dads watching today as well, including my dad. Happy Father's Day.